You won't be welcome at our wedding. Your presence would mark the end of our relationship." My oldest son and his future bride affirmed this with solemn nods. My heart sank as I felt their disdain for me. What had I done to deserve such rejection? Hadn't I simply been a typical mother to them? What was wrong with me? Why did they despise me so deeply? Their rejection felt like a wound I couldn't fathom. I couldn't comprehend their animosity towards me. They must truly loathe me to bar me from their special day. But I couldn't pinpoint any wrongdoing on my part. And my husband, too, faced their scorn. I couldn't bring myself to forgive my son. How could he treat me with such disrespect after all I had done for him? I refused to believe he could disregard his mother so callously. I needed to make him understand that his behavior was unacceptable. There would be consequences for disrespecting his mother. My name is Mary, a 55-year-old housewife, and I'm the mother of 2 sons. David, our eldest, now holds a prestigious position in a Tokyo-based company, while Tom, our second son, prefers the quiet life, working diligently at a local manufacturing firm. Once close, the bond between the brothers has frayed over time, with David developing a distaste for Tom. He subjected Tom to public humiliation and bullying, even after my reprimands failed to curb his behavior. Recently, David announced his impending marriage to a colleague from his workplace. She expressed a desire to meet us, prompting me to arrange a dinner. I welcomed this opportunity, seeing it as a chance to bid David farewell. David's aversion to Tom was evident, and Tom himself remarked, "It's probably for the best." The day we had agreed to meet arrived. A reservation had been made in a secluded corner of an upscale restaurant. The unfamiliar surroundings left me a bit flustered, but upon entering, I found David and a robust-looking woman already seated. "Hey, Mom and Dad, you're running late," David quipped. "Apologies, we got a bit turned around. This place is new to us," I replied. "Try not to make a scene," David retorted, though his words stung. I brushed him off, accustomed to David's demeanor. As we settled into our seats, we enjoyed a sumptuous meal while listening to their conversation. David spoke glowingly of his fiancée, praising her attentiveness to his every word and her forward-thinking approach to their future. He painted her as a paragon of perfection, unlike us, his parents. His adoration for her was palpable, though she urged him to tone it down. It seemed David couldn't help but extol her virtues and his own accomplishments whenever he spoke. When I inquired about their meeting, David dismissed it, asserting, "You should see how amazing she is," sidestepping any mundane details. It felt as though he was overcompensating, striving to impress us with her virtues, making me distinctly uneasy. My husband shared my discomfort, and I silently thanked Providence for Tom's absence from the gathering. "I'll say this again and again, she's nothing like you guys. Please don't mistreat her once we're married. Show her some respect," David implored. "I don't need reminding. I wouldn't dream of it," I assured him. "We'll see. You've always favored Tom over me. With that history, I can't be sure you won't do anything to her," David countered. His accusation hit me hard. While we had been preoccupied with David's relentless bullying of Tom, David felt sidelined and unloved. Tom had endured David's torment since childhood, and as any parent would, we tried to alleviate his distress. When I pressed David for reasons, his response was simple: because I didn't like Tom. Unable to bridge the gap, the issue remained unresolved. I hadn't realized David perceived our actions as favoritism towards Tom, but I chose not to challenge him, unwilling to escalate the tension. The strained dinner concluded without incident, but it was clear our underlying issues remained unresolved. "Getting up there in age, aren't you?" David remarked casually. "No need to fret, we'll look after you too." David had unilaterally decided that he and his wife would move in with us after their wedding, seemingly with her blessing. She chimed in, "You have another son who won't rely on you forever, right? I'll take care of him." The notion unsettled me deeply. While Tom did reside with us, it was out of genuine care and not entitlement. However, David and his family had moved in without our consent, claiming our space and assuming ownership. "Why don't you tend to the garden, Tom?" David urged. "I have work," Tom replied. "You're unemployed. Get to it," David retorted. "What? You're insufferable," Tom shot back. David's relentless pressure on Tom was escalating. I admired Tom's maturity in handling the situation, but the dynamics were far from simple. David and his family were scheming to oust Tom and us from the house without our knowledge. Late one night, after my husband and Tom had retired to bed, I ventured out for a drink of water. only to find the living room illuminated. "When do you think we'll have this house to ourselves?" she inquired. "Just a bit longer. We need solid plans to avoid any hiccups. Once we rid the place of the others, I want to give it a makeover. It's looking a bit dated." David chuckled in agreement. I was incredulous. I couldn't believe they were contemplating such a move. I immediately alerted my husband and Tom. Delaying action could spell disaster. As we deliberated our next move, Tom stepped forward with a strategy. "Mom, I'll handle this. I've got a plan," he assured us. Though Tom's words provided some comfort, his plan called for patience above all else. Yet if Tom's method proved successful, David and his fiancée would be out for good. With that in mind, my husband and I agreed to trust Tom's strategy. Despite the various ongoing issues, life carried on, and David and his fiancée set their wedding date. They opted for a luxurious venue nearby, which surprised us as we had initially thought a countryside setting would suffice. "It's a bit steep, but with our earnings, we can manage," David remarked with a smirk that irked me, though I held my tongue. Despite David's continued jabs at Tom's composed demeanor seemed to weather the storm. When the couple summoned us to discuss the wedding plans, we were met with an outrageous request. "Please refrain from attending our wedding. It would jeopardize our relationship," they declared. I was dumbfounded by their words, but managed to compose myself enough to ask David, "Are you sure? Why the sudden change?" "I'm afraid of you both. I don't want you there," David insisted, feeding tears in response to my inquiry. "I'm warning you, our relationship will be over if you show up. Isn't that what you want anyway? Am I not your terrible son?" David pointed accusingly at Tom, leaving Tom speechless. My patience wore thin upon hearing his words. "That's enough, David. You've been tormenting Tom for far too long. Why are you behaving like this? Your siblings stop treating him so poorly," I interjected, addressing David's bullying. David and his wife turned their gaze towards me as I spoke. "You have no right to criticize me. You've been fooled by Tom's charades and coddled him. You've always favored him," David retorted. "Because you mistreat your younger brother," I countered. "Isn't that just an excuse? You couldn't resist Tom's charm because he's so adorable." "That's not fair," David snapped back. Despite my reassurances that I didn't favor Tom, David refused to listen. Why couldn't he see that his own actions led to this situation? Why wouldn't he even consider it? David is my son, and despite his behavior, I felt a maternal obligation towards him. But that sentiment was fading fast. At that moment, I made the difficult choice to disengage from my son. "Fine then. I will be attending the wedding," I declared, washing my hands of the matter. Tom and my husband exchanged wide-eyed glances, while David and his companions seemed content with my decision. "Are you sure about this? You'll regret it," I cautioned. "No, we won't regret it. The best weddings are those free from distractions," David confidently replied. Their cheers contrasted with the heaviness in our hearts. There was no point attending a wedding where we weren't welcome. Eventually, our family reached the decision to abstain from the ceremony. Without an invitation, we wouldn't have been able to enter anyway. David appeared content throughout, but little did they know the repercussions of their decision. It was almost comical to consider the strategy Tom had devised. The newlyweds managed to navigate the wedding without any hitches, but they continued to reside in our home. Having recently changed jobs to be closer to us, they were busy packing and preparing for the move to their new office. Upon returning home from their first day at the new office, they frantically called for Tom. "Tom, what's happening?" they queried anxiously. When I inquired about the commotion, they relayed the events of the day in brief. During their orientation at the new workplace, they unexpectedly encountered Tom, who wasn't expected to be there. To their astonishment, when their boss spotted Tom, he respectfully bowed and expressed gratitude for Tom's assistance. The couple, previously under the impression that Tom was merely a factory worker, were taken aback by these revelations. Unbeknownst to them, Tom had been diligently toiling away at the factory since he first joined. His dedication hadn't gone unnoticed. The factory's president himself acknowledged Tom's invaluable contributions. Tom's innovative ideas had become integral to the factory's operations, earning him admiration from his colleagues. Thanks to his efforts, the factory's performance had seen significant improvements. In due course, the factory became a cornerstone for many companies. However, when the president fell ill, Tom's concern for him was palpable. He made it a point to visit the president regularly on his days off. Witnessing Tom's unwavering dedication, the president saw fit to appoint him as his successor. Tom, feeling overwhelmed by the responsibility, initially declined, saying, "I'm not capable of such a role." Yet the president remained resolute. With the encouragement of his peers, Tom eventually assumed the presidency. Under his leadership, the factory's performance soared to even greater heights. Tom's amiable nature, coupled with the trust he garnered from his employees, as well as his astute leadership, earned him widespread admiration. Today, the factory is relied upon by companies across Japan, and Tom's name is recognized even by major corporations in Tokyo. On this particular day, Tom was visiting the company for a client meeting, nothing more. However, the couple, unaware of Tom's elevated status, felt unsettled by the deference shown to him. "You always find a way to deceive us," David accused, seizing Tom's arm. "If only you had been honest with us, we wouldn't have reacted this way. Why didn't you tell us?" David's wife dissolved into tears on the spot. Tom's nonchalant demeanor was almost ironic given the circumstances. "I reached the top through my own efforts, that's all there is to it, so why all the anger?" he remarked casually, his expression unfazed. David's ire seemed to intensify at Tom's composure, prompting him to raise his voice. "Don't you dare act indifferent towards me." Yet Tom remained composed as he addressed David. "There's something else I want you to hear. It might be the most important thing for you." Through some effort, we managed to calm David and his wife and coax them into taking a seat. Tom, having retrieved something from his room, returned and began to narrate the story. "Firstly, take a look at this," Tom announced, spreading several photographs across the table. They depicted David's wife alongside a man in elegant attire, unmistakably capturing scenes of her infidelity. David's reaction was immediate. He erupted into shouts while his wife trembled, unsure of how to respond. "She's soon to be my sister-in-law, so I did some digging beforehand, and this is what I found," Tom explained calmly, gesturing to the incriminating evidence. "With this much evidence, there's no denying the truth," he added, prompting David's wife to bow her head in remorse. "I'm sorry," she murmured, her voice filled with genuine regret. David, grappling with the shock of the situation, could only stare in disbelief. This is the consequence of not looking beyond the surface of a person. "Nobody is perfect," Tom remarked with a laugh, eliciting giggles from the rest of us. David, overcome with despair, sank to his knees, the room falling silent save for his wife's earnest apologies. Ultimately, David and his wife went their separate ways, their marriage dissolved by David's unforgiving stance on infidelity. When it came time for his ex-wife to pay alimony, she found herself in a state of panic, relying on her parents' financial support to meet her obligations. Yet even this wasn't enough to mend the deep wounds inflicted upon David. Overwhelmed by the shock of the divorce, David chose to resign from his job. Since then, he has retreated into seclusion, rarely emerging from his room except to grab a meal. However, whenever Tom was around, David would recoil in fear, as if haunted by the memory of their confrontation. It appears that since that incident, David has developed a fear of Tom. The family had deliberated extensively on what to do about David. Ultimately, they reached a unanimous decision to sever ties with him in the near future. It pained them to contemplate such a drastic step, but David's selfish behavior left them feeling unable to forgive him. Several months later, David was ousted from the household. In his final moments there, he pleaded for forgiveness, but by then, he no longer seemed like family to them, and his expulsion felt like a natural consequence. Meanwhile, the remaining 3 members of the family now enjoy a carefree existence without anyone hindering their peace. Though her husband has retired, they face no financial struggles, thanks to Tom's hard work. She harbors a deep desire to ensure Tom's happiness and security for as long as she lives. Tom is set to tie the knot soon with his longtime girlfriend, a colleague from their workplace. Their relationship has flourished over several years, and the prospect of her precious son's wedding fills her with anticipation and joy.